Good morning. My name is Romina Montanari, and I manage the food and wine event for Italian Cultural Center in Minneapolis. And the Italian Cultural Center, the major goal is to promote Italian language and culture in the Twin City. Here, we're presenting a new series that is called Storie di famiglia, made in Italy, with the people behind the label. But today, we are the last episode of Labor of Love, Wine Families of Piemonte. And today, we're going to meet the San Martino and the Marenco family. Before we get started, I just give you a little bit of housekeeping tips. For example, keep yourself muted, try to keep the speaker view. And also, when we're showing the picture, please choose on the top of the faces, show active speaker video. I want to let you know that we're recording and that, that the Piedmont is really hilly. So if we have some problem with the internet, please be patient. Suzanne will interview the two families for 40 minutes, and then we'll take 20 minutes of question and answer. And please write your question in the chat so everybody can see them. And so now we're ready to introduce Suzanne Hoffman, that she's an attorney and author of the book Labor of Love, Wine Family Women of Piemonte. Then we're going to meet the Giovanna San Martino di San Germano. She's managing with her sister Emanuela and Antonella a wine estate that are producing wine since 1696, is the Marchesi Alfieri. It's an estate because they have the Alfieri Castle, and they are in the location of San Martino Alfieri, that are in the hills between Asti and Alba. Then we're going to meet the Marenco family. With us, we have Andrea with his mother, Michela, and the dad, Giovanni, and the two aunts, Doretta and Patrizia. They're going to talk about the Marenco wine producing company. They're producing wine since 1925, and they are in Strevi, near Acqui Terme, that is in the Monferrato wine denomination area. So we're ready to start. I will be happy just to give the word to Suzanne.
Buongiorno a tutti. I'm in Colorado, and it's exciting to know that we've got people from all over the world joining us. And I thank you very much for this. I would like first to introduce you to the region. Many of you have been with us for the last few weeks, and I really appreciate that you've come back to join us. The Alfieri families and Marenco are another two families from my book, Labor of Love. And you can see where Piemonte is located in the northwest part of Italy. You can see in the little relief map down here. Today, we've been way over in Langhe and Roero, which is over in the Cuneo province. Today, we're going to jump over to Alessandria and Asti and to the wine region of Monferrato. Our first family that we're going to talk to today, Andrea Costa, comes from Strevi near Acqui Terme, right here where my cursor circle. And then we're going to jump up near Asti to Marchesi Alfieri in San Martino Alfieri. So you can get a little better look of how Monferrato is spread out throughout the region. Remember, we were over here in Alba, southwest of Alba, and a little bit northeast of Alba, and then Roero, which was on the north side of the Tanaro River. So I would love to introduce you. Excuse me just a second. We always have these lovely problems with the screen sharing, so I will stop for a moment. But I would love to introduce you to Andrea Costa. Andrea is in the generation, a young man following three women whose father saw great potential in these women and turned the winery over to them. It was no accident that women are controlling Marenco these days. But now the next generation, Andrea. Andrea, welcome.
Thank you everyone. It's so good to be in Minnesota, even if virtually at the moment, but I promise I'll be there physically as soon as possible. Yes, as Suzanne is saying, I'm surrounded by great women that are my mom and my mentors, and let's get back to 1925 for a second. That's my great grandfather, Michele Marenco. So the winery takes the name from my family name, from my mom's family name. He was a farmer in Strevi, like many. Strevi is in Monferrato and it's traditionally vocated for viticulture. There is a specific vocation for the aromatic grapes, so we grow good Moscato and good Brachetto in Strevi. But also we do Barbera. We are in the area of Barbera d'Asti, and so my great-grandfather was growing mainly Moscato and Barbera grapes, like about all his neighbors. They were doing that for the family, for the friends, and a little bit for the sales, but they were not selling only wine, they were selling agricultural products. So they were selling chicken, they had rabbits for themselves, and they had grapes, and they made wine. And my great-grandfather, in 1925, he married my great-grandmother, and they had two vineyards that are still our vineyards today, the Marchesi and the Scrapona. And they merged, and they started to make the wine together and to bottle the wine. And that's why we say the beginning of Marenco was 1925. We began earlier than that, but that's our beginning as a family affair and as a family story. And that was my great-grandfather, and then they had a son, they had an only child, and that was my grandfather. It was Giuseppe Marenco. Giuseppe Marenco was my great-grandfather, and he was the guy who had really a vision in our family. And he was one of those Piemonte farmers that made what Piemonte is today, I believe. And he made it in a region which is Monferrato. So Giuseppe, my great-grandfather, he didn't leave. That was after World War II. So it was not the Piemonte we know today. You probably heard the story before in the previous episodes. It was a lot of fog, a lot of humidity, problems with the sanity of the grapes. The market was not the market we have today. So many people moved from the country and moved to Milano, in our case also to Genova, because we are in the south of Piemonte, and to Torino. My grandfather decided to stay. That was the investment he started to make. And it was good to make wine and also with people. And he started to make customers with bottles, and his customers were in Italy, all in Italy, Milano, Torino, and Genoa. And in 1953, he built the cellar that we still run today, which is in the center of this tiny village of Strevi. And then, as Suzanne mentioned before, he had 3 daughters. We believe that he tried to make a guy because in the past farmers wanted to have a boy because it was easier with a boy. That's what they believed, at least. But his 3 daughters are one of the main reasons of the success of our brand today, because they were all involved in the family business. Michela, the older of the 3, is my mom, and she's always been taking care of the sales and of the relations to the people. And he's actually the engine of our family. And my dad also, he graduated as an attorney, but he joined the family as let's say the man in the group. And my other 2 aunts, Doretta, she's taking care of hospitality. And Patrizia, she is one of the first girls that graduated as winemaker in the 80s in Alba, because also winemaking was a man job. That's what it was believed. Today we know that the wine business is full of women that made successful stories in all the areas, not marketing, but also a lot of winemakers are women today. But Patrizia was one of the first. And so that's the family. Today I joined the family. I did something else for a while, like for 11 years, but I decided that was my passion, and I wanted to make a job out of it and keep the path of the family. So I joined the full time in 2014. And that's pretty much when I met Suzanne. And that's for the fact, and thanks to that casual meeting, that's why we're here today. I'm here today to describe the winery, so I'm very excited Also because I usually talk about wine, and today it's very nice because we talk about the wine, but also about the family and the people. So this is great. This is great stuff. I really appreciate. So thanks to Suzanne, and also thanks to the Tiziana and Romina for the organization, and to you for joining. So that's the family. And to make a long story short, we moved from 1925, 1953, we made the cellar. 1980s, we started to make the wines that we still make today. So we started to make the cru, to make single vineyards, to take the best spot of our vineyards and decide which wine to make here and which wine to make there. If you come to Storie, to us today, you will see that we have vineyards in Storie, and that's where we still grow Moscato and Brachetto. And we have vineyards in Fontanile and Castelboglione, and that's where we grow our Barbera. So we have, let's say, zonated the area in order to take the grapes from where it grow the best. And that was stuff that the generation before mine did. So my parents did in the 80s and the 90s. And those wines are still the Marenco that is in the market, in the restaurants today. The Scrapona, the Bastina, the Ciresa, those wines were born in that era. And then in 2015, we started the conversion to organic, but that's just the conclusion of a path. It started more than 20 years ago when we decided to not to use herbicides or to fertilize in a very soft manner, to try to find a balance for the vine in the area. And I think this is an important thing for family wineries. When you choose your wines, I think there are two things that make a real family wine better. One is that we live where we grow. So I think that we don't need a certification to show what we do, because my daughter is growing up in the vineyard. So of course I want it green. Of course I want it sustainable because we live where we grow the grapes. So we don't want to pollute the area. And the second thing why a family wine is a great thing, I think, is that we think following generation. We don't think in a 3 or 4 years period. Because if we did that, for example, this year with the COVID, we wouldn't plant any vineyards, but we did plant vineyards this year. Because the result of the vineyards we planted in 2020, my daughter is gonna see it, because it takes 4 years to have the grape, 10 years to make decent grapes, and 15 years if we want to make a aged Barbera. So that's the way we think. So I think my grandfather, the good thing of the satisfaction of what my grandfather did is my generation to take that. So I think that it's a longer story that only with the family wineries can happen. So today we still grow the grapes, and actually 100% of the grapes come from the estate. We believe this is very important. I'm sure that Donna Giovanna will say the same, and I'm sure you heard that before, because good wineries grow the grapes. And this is even more important, we think, in a wine that is very important for us, which is the Moscato, which is the first grape you see on the left. This is Moscato Bianco. It's one of the 3 most planted grapes in Piemonte: Moscato, Barbera, and Dolcetto. It originally comes from Greece, but it found a very nice home in Piemonte. So the peaks, not the best, but the most expressive Moscato, one of the most expressive Moscato wine in the world is made in Piemonte. This is sometimes unbelievable because it's the region of red wines. We make Barolo, we make Barbera d'Asti, we make Nizza, we make Barbaresco, but we also make a great Moscato, and we actually drink a lot of that because it's very good. And in the appellation Moscato d'Asti, Storie is considered one of the 3 villages which has the longer tradition. So if you taste the Moscato Marenco, you will taste a very rich Moscato, but with a nice balance given by the minerality and the limestone that we have in the soils. So it's very different Moscato. Sometimes it surprises people, and we convert people that don't like Moscato to say, but this is different. And then we grow Brachetto, which is another aromatic grape to discover, much smaller in terms of extension, but very, very important as well as a taste. It makes a nice rosé, which is a little bit sparkling and aromatic and sweet. then in Marenco, we grow Barbera. I'm sure that also Donna Giovanna will talk a lot good about Barbera because they make a great Barbera. We also make Barbera d'Asti. And we have Albarossa, which is a nice indigenous varieties. This is also something very interesting about family wineries, that sometimes we like to be a little crazy. Because to plant varieties like Albarossa or Caricalasi, you know, you need to be a little crazy because they don't have a market. You have to create it. So and sometimes you don't even know if the wine will become a good wine. But you like it or you taste it somewhere, and that's how it started with the Albarossa, for example. And now it's a nice, very nice, deep, full body, full structure red wine that is developing. More wineries are now planting the Albarossa. Yeah. I don't know about timing, so because I can talk for hours, but
I know. But let's
and then like to have questions and answer. I like that part. So
yeah, I think we'll leave the technical parts to the question and answer. But tell us a little bit about the winery itself and about your region. You know, not many people get down to Storie, and they should, because I think Monferrato is under-discovered.
Yeah, exactly. And there was Piemonte. When you land to Piemonte and you are a wine lover, you first go to Barolo. So let's center on Barolo and Alba, because that's a fact. That's where I would go as well. But there is not only Barolo. And actually, for example, if you talk to old people, there was a time when Dolcetto and Moscato were even more important than Barolo. So it's very cycles. So let's start from Barolo just to make a journey. And if you move 45 minutes driving towards southeast, so let's say towards Tuscany, you will land in Storie. And it's a nice drive in the hills of Langhe first, and then Monferrato. And Monferrato is one of the three areas that have been declared UNESCO World Heritage in 2014 for the beauty of the landscapes that the man has built here during the time. And the Monferrato goes from all the way from the border with Liguria, so on south, and goes up all the way to Casale Monferrato. In the Monferrato area, we grow Moscato. The grapes we've seen before, and we also grow Cortese in the area of Gavi. The tiny village of Storie is close to Acquiterme, which deserves a visit because it's a thermal town. We have nice spas, and we have this fountain that the water springs at 75 Celsius, which is almost boiling temperature, all year long. And it was made by the Romans. So we still have the water pumps made by the water conduct pipes made by the Romans. And around this area of this thermal area, now we do have very nice restaurants, and it's a cozy town that it's good to spend a visit if you will come to Piemonte. And then Storie is the village, which is 5 kilometers, 3 miles from Acquiterme. It's 1,000 people and 2,000 hectares of vineyards. So it's definitely the winemaking is the first activity there. And in Storie, you will find, in the center of Storie, you will find our vineyards and our cellar, Marenco.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and about the family. I mean, you're a man who came along. Your mother, your grandfather had daughters, and your mother had sons, and as well as your aunt. So, please tell us a little bit about yourself and why you came into the family business.
Yeah, the fact is that the third generation, so my mom's generation, was three girls, and now my generation is 3 boys. There's myself, my brother, and my cousin, the son of Patrizia. And then the 5th generation started with my daughter. So it was supposed to be girls again, but then my brother had a boy. So we mixed it up. So it's the only girl and only boy is over. Yes, I represent the fourth generation. I'm the only one active in the winery, even if my brother and my cousin are my consultants. I've joined 5 years ago after graduating in engineering. I graduated as engineer in Torino and had 11 years in completely other business, because I worked at Ferrari, in cars for 6 years. And then in a Canadian company, the Bombardier, making trains for the other 5 years. But then it's not like I had the call. Actually, I was always sure that that's what I wanted to do. And so I was 35 and I decided, hey, this is the good time to do it. So I started to study winemaking, because winemaking is what I like the most. And I joined the winery. And now I'm supporting Patrizia in the winemaking, and I'm taking care of the markets. So I'm the one who travels across the ocean. So I believe I'll be in Minnesota sooner or later. So if you like, we can have a coffee or a glass of Moscato together.
That's what I would love. But I mean, you had to go back to school. And where were you living before? I mean, you were not close to the winery. You were not close to Germano. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. In high school, I came to the US for a year. I went in Montana for a year.
Ah, so you're English. That's why it's so good.
Yes. So and I love your nation. So I like to go there, and I miss it. I missed 3 trips because of COVID. I was supposed to go, and I miss it. So I look forward to be back. And then I went back to Italy and finished high school in Acquiterme, and then I went to Torino for the university. Then I moved to Modena, where I lived 6 years for Ferrari. And then I moved to Savona, so the Ligurian coast, for other 5 years. And I traveled Europe a lot, because Bombardier is very active in Berlin, Paris, and Madrid. So I was there very often. And latest, a few years ago, I moved back to Acqui, and I brought my wife Laura with me and my daughter Agnese, and we now live in the center of Acquiterme.
That's wonderful. I love that story, because when I was interviewing so many of your generation for Labor of Love, it was really special to hear people who had gone away and started other careers, like Isabella Odero, we heard from last week, and Chiara Boschis also last week, and they wanted nothing to do with the wine business. Maria Teresa Mascarella, nobody wanted anything to do with it. And then they came back, and so I think it's a beautiful story, and I think we're all beneficiaries of that you did. But before we wrap up, just I want to touch on the Moscato, because that is one of your biggest productions, and it's a very important grape. Tell us a little bit about your marketing strategy and how you can get more people to drink Moscato, this beautiful Moscato that you make.
Yeah, the strategy, the Moscato is very important. The biggest production are Moscato, Brachetto, and Barbera d'Asti. And now we will introduce a Nizza. We have it in the cellar already. But Moscato, yes, it's our heart, our soul, it's our passion, because we believe, first of all, that it's a fine wine, and sometimes it's undertreated, because it's also a good drink, but it's also very fine wines if you treat it well. So the Moscato is we have 2 Moscato. One is a Streve, and that's to make a connection with Burgundy. Streve is the village, and then we have the Scrapona, which is the cru. So the Streve comes from Marenco vineyards in the area of Strevi, and so it's more balanced and more representative of the Strevi terroir. So we have a Moscato which is elegant nose with the usual expressions of Moscato d'Asti. So we have apricots, we have the orange blossom, we have some honey, some sage, a lot of sage, actually herbal. And then the Moscato from Strevi is very rich in terms of sweetness, because we have over 120 grams of residual sugars, and the sweetness is all natural. That's all Moscato d'Asti. And then the minerality and the acidity balances the sweetness so nice that you want to drink another glass. So this is very important for a wine, drinkability. We make wines that are nice we want to make wines that we drink. And the Scrapona, the Cru, is a different wine. It's a Moscato d'Asti because it's Moscato grapes grown in the Moscato d'Asti area, but it has a unique flavors, unique aromas. It goes passion fruit, it goes tropical. So it's very nice. Sometimes it's more comparable to other white wines, but it's a Moscato. So it's very, very unique with a huge personality. And that's why my parents' generation decided that the grapes from that vineyards have to go into a single vineyard wine. Moscato is very versatile. You can taste, actually I learned that also from going to America, because in California I had it with tacos, for example, with fish tacos, and it was amazing, or pork belly. Or in the eastern area, like China, I had it with some spicy food, and that tasted very well. Or in France, I had Moscato paired with the tempura, like fried sage or fried shrimps. That's also nice pairing with Moscato d'Asti. And then, of course, pastry. That's how we traditionally do it in Italy. So if there is a dessert, there is a glass of Moscato d'Asti. That's how we celebrate our Sundays. We always finish with a cake and Moscato, Bunette and Moscato, or just like cookies and some Moscato. And that's the first wine that children get introduced to wine in Piemonte. So my daughter, I don't know if I can say because there is a drinking age, but my daughter, when she was 2, she poured his finger in the Moscato and she liked it because we do like sweet stuff when it's good. Yeah. And so that's the Moscato d'Asti.
It's a beautiful wine, and I'm so happy that people are discovering it with a little age on it, and they're discovering it in other dishes. We like it at brunch during the summer. So thank you so much, Andrea. We're going to come back to you later because I'm sure there are going to be some questions, and anybody who has some technical questions about the wines, please type those in and ask. Unmute yourself when you're called on. But right now, we are going to turn it over to Donna Giovanna and Martino di San Germano from Marchesi Alfieri. Thank you so much. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you all.
So, Donna Giovanna, welcome. Welcome. It's
Thank
great
you.
to have you with
Thank
us.
you, Susan. So nice to see you after a long time.
I know. Well, as I said before, I should have been there this summer quite a bit.
Yeah, I know.
And I certainly think of you all often. So tell us a little bit about Marchesi Alfieri, the estate and the family.
Well, Marchesi Alfieri is an historic wine estate located in the village of San Martino Alfieri, in the hill between Asti and Alba, just in the middle of the way Asti-Alba. The estate is more or less 150 hectares, and we put in the vineyard just 21. This is our small house in between the vineyard, and we produce more or less 130,000 bottles anyhow. I would like to say that in the Langhe, they produce a lot of Nebbiolo because they give the best position to Nebbiolo. In the Monferrato, the main grape is the Barbera. And so we have Barbera d'Asti. We produce 2 Barbera. Alfiera we produce not very much bottle, but it's our superiore, Barbera superiore, and La Tota. La Tota, that is the, I would say, the biggest number of bottles for us of the Barbera. The castle and the estate have always been linked with our family. In the Middle Age, the castle belonged to a Solaro family. It was a merchant and banker family. Since the 1616, the Alfieri, it was a big, important family in Asti, have received this estate from the Savoy family. And now the family name of Alfieri, the family Alfieri is finished. There are no more Alfieri. But the family Alfieri is linked in the Piemontese history and Italian history. I would say one of the most important, of course, you know, Vittorio Alfieri is an important writer, tragedy and poem. But very important also is the president of the Senato, Cesare Alfieri, who wrote with the King Carlo Alberto di Savoia the first liberal constitution of Italy. Here you see the state view from upstairs, and the beautiful view of the hills. We're just on the right side is Alba, on the left side is Asti.
I apologize, Donna Giovanna, because somehow it's frozen on me. So bear with me with the slides, but I love this view. So.
Me too. It's a very, very nice, yeah.
It's absolutely gorgeous. Well, you know, so you've been in the business for a long time as a family, but tell us a little bit about more recently, you and your sisters and your father.
We are
also, when did you become involved?
Yeah, we are also three sisters, like the family Marenco. Huh? When the last Alfieri descendant, Margherita Visconti, died in 1982 without children, she left the property to my father. They were cousins who like each other very, very much. My father eventually left this property to his three daughters, of which I am one, knowing that we would look after it as well as we possibly could. Since almost 40 years, we have been working to improve and maintain the property in the vineyard, cellar, and castle.
Well, you've done more than just in the vineyard and the castle and the cellar in terms of looking after them. Tell us about all of the development, all of the preservation that you've been doing, because it's quite expansive and quite a lot of work to keep a castello like that one involved. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about the recent restoration of the castello?
Yeah, most recently we have been focusing on the castle that need urgent work, not only on the facade, because the facade was moving, I would say, and so it was a big and very expensive work. The facade and the roof. We have done important restoration also in the ballroom. The ballroom, you will see, I think you are exactly this picture. We've been electrified the chandelier, the Murano chandelier. They are very heavy, 200 pieces each.
Wow.
And we restored the stucco, the putti representing the four seasons, been beautifully restored from the Magellan Cali that you know, this Irish restorer. And now it's finished and we can use it again, not as ballroom, but as a conference room or just to visit.
You know, it's quite a beautiful room. And here you have these cables. Those cables you had to put in to keep the facade from going away.
Yeah, you don't see very, very well, but yeah, you can see some, exactly this. But yeah, you don't notice. Yeah, you don't notice really.
No, but I was looking the other day at a before and after, and it was amazing. No.
Now we embarked on an ambitious project to put into use the old cellar in parallel with an increase in wine production. You know, Sotto Castello, it was exactly this part. As part of this project, we also restored the old kitchen to its original state, making use of all the vintage utensils found lying there, some not touched in over 200 years. That's the original fridge, the oven, and even a machine to make ice cream.
Oh my word.
Yeah, you should come and see it now.
Well, I saw it when you had started that, but this is amazing.
See, it will be soon be open to our guests as part of a historical tour of the property.
Oh, that's amazing.
Another project is also to create a new area to serve breakfast for our guests. You are, of course, all your exact. This will be the new, probably for the good season, the new part for the breakfast. You are all invited to come and share a glass of wine with us and to see all the new improvement.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. I know my guests are as well. But you've been doing a lot of improvements, but you've also in the estate itself, in the buildings. But what's going on in the vineyards? And tell us a little bit about the history of one of your grapes that I love so much, the Pinot Noir. Do you mind sharing that with us a little bit?
Well, after the guidance and extensive experience of our director, Mario Olivero, that you see here in the photo, our mission is to produce full-body, complex and elegant wine that reflects the character of the grape cultivated in this part of Italy, especially for the Barbera, the Barbera d'Asti, because we are really in the zone, in the part of Piemonte that the best is Barbera d'Asti. Our latest offering is a Blanc de Noir, a sparkling wine made from a Pinot Noir grape that was introduced in the middle of 19th century to the vineyard of the Alfieri family from Count Camillo Benso di Cavour, that it was a uncle of Marchesi Alfieri. After the advice to the French enologist Louis Houdard. And now we produce with this Blanc de Noir, this a delicious pairing. You can pair it with the starter, fish, and cheese.
I love
this. Have you tasted already or not?
Have I tasted it? I've had all of the vintages except the most recent one. I love it. I've been able to see this wine from its from before its birth. How's that? During its gestation, and I think it's a very special wine because you don't find much Blanc de Noir in the region. So, complimenti for producing this gorgeous wine. You know, so are you planting any new vineyards? What's going on?
Yeah. We're always planting new vineyard. Also this year, as Andrea Costa said, in a very difficult moment, we plant new vineyard. And we believe a lot in the future, and so we work on this.
Well, speaking of the future, tell us about the future of the Alfieri estate and what your plans are, because what really makes you so special in my heart, other than the people and the beautiful wine, is the fact that you have this dedication to making it a venue that people can come and enjoy. They can come and enjoy the art. They can come and enjoy the music and the beauty.
Exactly, because San Martino has for many years been a place where family gathering and celebration have taken place, and many happy shared memory have been created here. For me personally, it is very important that the property remain primarily a family place, family home, a place where all our children and grandchildren who live in various countries around the world can come and be together. This is very important. I think the family, they live everywhere in Europe, but they look now, they will come next week. Tuesday will be the first arrive. They will be all here, all together.
I know that's very special.
Yes. On the commercial side, a younger generation is starting to take over the running of the state. This is Lydia, my niece, with Max, the husband. You know them, huh?
Yes.
This, of course, inject a welcome sense of dynamics and vision into our strategy. We are very excited of that.
I'm sure you are. And Maximilian's family goes back quite a ways in Austria in terms of wine.
They live in Austria, but they are coming, actually they are here now.
No,
Today they are here in San Martino. He produce also wine.
Yeah. Excuse me, I'm sorry, there's a delay. I don't mean to speak over you, but Maximilian's family in Austria, they are longtime winemakers as well, generations, centuries.
No, well, I don't know if a long time. He is producing and selling wine, yeah.
No, because I know the family, I did a little research on that. So if you would say...
I am also keen to expand our focus on cultural initiative. We provide a space to promote local and international young talent, as well as a place to enjoy the exhibition, concert. This was last year, a very funny opera of Rossini, Cinderella Rossini opera, an open air, and it was a great success, we also have exactly, this is a young Piemontese sculpture. Look, I love this apps. You see the roots, the farmer with the
I love that one.
Say, roots in the hair. And so we love to have here some exhibition, concert, cultural event. The guests of the locanda, situated in the ground of the state, are allowed, of course, to be part of all our events. San Martino has been a labor of love. When we inherited the property, we knew little about the world of wine and what was awaiting us. We were driven by enthusiasm and a strong sense of responsibility and as guardians to the property. It has been quite a journey, yeah. Seeing where we are now, give me a sense of pride and satisfaction.
As it should be, as it should be. It is really a magical place. I think I've missed, of all the places, I have so many favorite spots in Piemonte, but there's something very magical about your estate that you can really feel the connection through the years, because you can see the development of the region through your what work you've done and the progression of the buildings. So I thank you so very much for sharing with us a little
Dear
bit.
Susan, I hope to see you soon again in San Martino.
Well, I hope so too. Our prayer is that we'll be there in October, but I definitely will be there with lots of people with me next summer. and beyond. We just can't wait to get back. In the meantime, I have my own stash of Alfiera that I have brought back from my recent trip, and we'll be enjoying your wines. And thank you so much. So I'm going to now turn it back over to Romina, and I'm sure there's some questions. So Romina, it's all yours.
Ciao a tutti ancora, welcome. I'm back with the question. So we're going to go through the chat and see some question. I have a question from Janet Callahan, and maybe I think she likes, maybe if she wants, she can ask this question. Is about the grape. So let's see if she can unmute herself. Yes, she can talk. Yes, Janet, ask your question, and you can do it both in English. You wrote your question in Italian. You can both do it in Italian and in English. And I think Andrea maybe can answer. So Giovanna, she can take a break a little bit.
Ok, grazie. Il primo vorrei ringraziarvi, Romano, Suzanne e tutti, per darci questi viaggini speciali in Italia. La mia domanda è, bere il vino e conoscerlo sono cose nuove per me e sono curiosa. È possibile mangiare le uva di vino o cucinare con loro, o hanno un buon gusto solamente quando diventano il vino?
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. I hope I said, I'm curious. Wine and everything about wine is new to me. So I'm a little curious. Is it possible to eat wine grapes or cook with them, or do they only have a good flavor when you make them into wine, when they become wine?
So Janet, 2 times bravo for the Italian and for the question.
Molto grazie.
It's very interesting, and I think me and Donna Giovanna and Mario, we give it as a given, because but it's a good question, actually a good question, right? It's yes, you can eat the grapes. They are very good. It's fruit, so they are very good. And there are a few grapes varieties, which are the aromatic grapes, that the aromas that you feel in the when you eat the grape, you also have it in the wines, like Moscato. Moscato is one of them. Sauvignon is a little bit one of them as well. While for the rest of the varieties, the flavor don't match. And this is maybe something you don't think, but the flavors don't match, because the flavors of the wine come from precursori, so they are already in the grape, but in order to express, they need alcoholic fermentation, and they need aging. So yes, you can taste, but not always the flavors match. They do with the aromatic grapes. They do with Moscato. Barbera does not. If you taste the grape, it's very good. It's sweet. But if you taste the wine, it's more complex. It gets magic after the vinification. And yes, also to the second question, we can cook with the grapes. We make, for example, mostarda. Mostarda is called also cugna in some areas of Piemonte. It's like a jam that we make with the fall fruits. So we use the grapes because they make the liquid, but we also put like hazelnuts, nuts, figs, all the fruits that are available in Piemonte in the fall, and we cook it together for hours, and at the end we have this nice and energetic jelly that we use with cheese or just with bread. That's an example, but you can try it.
Piemontese name for that. Give us the Piemontese name for that mostarda.
Cugna.
Cugna, yeah.
Exactly. And it's wonderful with strong cheeses like Castelmagno. It's great. And every nonna has her own recipe, I know. Romina, any other questions?
Giovanna, can you explain us how you decide what name to give to the wines?
Oof. This, honestly,
Go ahead.
No, what? The second question was?
there is also one particular bottle that, you know, I like the name La Tota, and what does it mean?
That's good.
Well, the most important thing is to give a name to the wine. We are too many in the family to decide. Una questione di democrazia. No? When somebody find a nice name, said, I suggest this name, the other said, it's not so nice, and then stopped. It's very difficult. Well, La Tota is the name was given to the last Alfieri girl. She died at 93 years old, I don't know, or more. She was married. She was unmarried and called in the village. Everybody know them like La Tota. La Tota in Piemontese means young lady or unmarried. But it's nicely said, huh? It's very nice. And it's a farmhouse called La Tota, and the grape, we plant the Barbera, and so we give the youngest Barbera is La Tota.
Okay, grazie. I have another question about the three sisters, because you're three sisters, and I was wondering how you manage, you know, the business being three, everyone, like, how do you decide how to manage the business with the three sisters? You know, you only take care of one part, or?
Well, on the beginning, yes. On the beginning, I was in charge, because it was my nature to the production, the head, to the work. Another sister was the administration, and the third, the older sister, Emanuela, more the sailing. And well, this during few years, and we did a big mistake, but the great moment came when the director, Mario Olivero, came join us to work here, and though the Marchesi Alfieri grew, and now we sleep much better, and everything is running well.
Good.
If I might jump in, Romina, I see that Mario's there, and since Donna Giovanna mentioned him, Mario, please unmute and say hi. How were the mountains this weekend? Unmute.
I hope he's there. He's there?
Unmute yourself.
He's unmuting himself, okay? So 1 second to see.
Okay, this is the problem we've been having. Mario, you have to unmute. There, he sees the note, I know.
He's there?
One second. Okay, 1 second, because, okay, perfect. He's going to, I'm asking him again to unmute. Okay, perfect, he can talk. And also I'm going to put him in the
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, there you are.
Okay.
Good.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Yes, and no, it was great today. I was in Valmaira as many times of my weekend. And I would like to just to come back a little bit about the question of Janet Callan about the grape if you can eat. And Andrea Costa explained very well that you can, for sure you can eat, but on the other side, and Moscato is much better to be eaten compared with Barbera. But an important thing to know, probably not everybody knows, is that before became a wine, you must cultivate great grapes. And to understand the right point of ripeness is not enough to make analysis, chemical analysis about sugar, about acidity, etc. But it's also essential to be able to eat the grape and to understand the evolution in the skin and in the seeds, in the pips. And this is a very important time, and it is very delicate moment, because you know that when you harvest a parcel of vineyards or a big vineyards, from this time and for the rest of the life, you have decided the character and the ripeness your future wine? So it's a good question to understand, because before to become a wine is a fruit, and we have to take care of the fruit as all the other fruit, probably a little bit more, because we want to have from the grapes something that will have an evolution during the fermentation and finally in the wine and also in the bottle. And speaking about the history of the winery, I arrived in 1999, and of course I had a very good feeling with the family, with Giovanna, Antonella, and Manuela, and the place was gorgeous, the castle and the historical cellar. But was very important for me was the heritage of the land, because the land it represents for the winemaker, for the wine business, the most important thing. So if you don't have preserved beautiful hills and beautiful soils, and you don't have the best position of the area, you will never be able to make great wines, because in the cellar you can only transform, and you take care of the wine, of course, but you cannot change or create what the French people call terroir. Terroir is a mix of three very important things. One is the soil, of course. The second is the climate. And the third are the people. So if you change one of these three things, you change your wine. And you cannot add nothing of special if you in the cellar, if you don't have very good grapes with deep character and complete aroma in the vineyard.
That's a good point, and a lot of people miss that. Thank you so much, Mario, for that input. That was really interesting. Andrea, anybody near you? Do you have anybody you want to say hi, who wants to say hi? Andrea?
I'm by myself tonight.
Oh, you're by yourself, so we don't have the next generation with
Yeah,
you.
exactly. She's taking a nap because she was exhausted. So that's not the usual time to take a nap, but she's doing that.
We'll meet her at the winery. Everyone should go and meet her. She's a doll, and it's wonderful to see that there's more coming in the Marenco family. Tell me, Romina, any other questions?
In the chat, no, please. If you have any question, write it in the chat, and we'll be happy to ask to Andrea. Andrea, do you want to talk a little bit more about the Moscato as historic grape? You know, like the heritage.
Yeah, the Moscato is a family of varieties. So there are many Moscato varieties: Moscato Bianco, Moscato Giallo, Moscato di Sarracina, Moscato di Scanso, Moscato di Alessandria, and they started from Greece and those Middle East area, and in northwest of Italy, mainly Piemonte, the grape that took home there is the Moscato Bianco. So that's the grape I know that grow. The other Moscato, for example, it's in Northeast, so Friuli, Veneto, they plant Moscato, and then Sicily do plant Moscato as well. Because it is a rich grape. It's a very important grape to manage, because it's a heritage from the nature, because the quantity of terpenes, which is the molecule that give the aromas to the grape, are so high that there is no other grape in the planet that have this heritage. So the focus of the winemaking is to keep those nice aromas in the wine. And Piemonte started very early, because already over 150 years ago in the royal house of Savoia, they knew how to, they realized how to make Moscato to give the best expression to Moscato. They discovered that if they keep it sweet, they enhance the primary aromas. So they started to stop the fermentation, because the fermentation is not easy to stop, because when the fermentation starts, the fermentation tends to continue until the end or almost the end, but that's another story. And while Moscato d'Asti is a wine where we do interrupt the fermentation when we reach 5% alcohol. And that's easier today because of technology, because we refrigerate the tank and the fermentation immediately stops. But you have to imagine the world of 150 years ago with a lot of desire to drink good wines, because they were already very gastronomical experts, but no technology. No, they didn't have that technology. So they did it with a lot of filtrations. We still have in the cellar, I think Suzanne had a chart, the filters that were used in 150 years ago for making Moscato. So that's really such an important grape that winemakers in all ages invested their time and their energy to make a better wine. And Piemonte started first. So that's why today Moscato d'Asti is one of the most important expressions of Moscato in the planet. Then about 100 years ago, we introduced technology, but that's just, the technology is just to make a more stable wine, but we are respecting the recipe. So the recipe of Moscato is still the original recipe made by the winemakers at the Savoy House 150 years ago. So today, the way we make Moscato is that we take the grapes, and what Mario said is very important, because we need to know how our grapes do the maturation. So when we think that the grape reached the peak of sugars, aromas, acidity, we manually harvest, and we press the grapes, and we softly press the grape, and we do refrigerate the juice. After a night of natural cleaning, we refrigerate the juice, and then parcel by parcel we ferment the juice. Like a normal wine, but the fact is that Moscato is fermenting, and we do stop the fermentation when we reach 5% alcohol. So it's a very unique wine. First of all, because it is 5%, so there are no other wines allowed to be 5% other than Moscato d'Asti and Brachetto d'Acqua, because the OIV says that wine needs to be at least, I think, 8 or 9 degrees to be called wine. But Moscato d'Asti is so traditional that we can call it wine even if it's 5% alcohol, because of the long tradition of the wine. It's only natural sweetness because the sugar is remaining, so we do not add in any sugars. And even the carbonation is natural from the fermentation. So there is no added sugars, and there is no added anything. And after the fermentation, we filter the wine, very important. The filtration is very important because we have to remove the yeasts, and then we bottle the wine, and it's ready for sales. That's another thing about Moscato d'Asti. People want it young, but it's better to wait. Like any other wine, if you wait at least 6 months from bottling, it gets better. So don't worry about the vintage. If you go back with vintages, good Moscatos can age nicely.
Okay.
That's for sure. Sure.
I have one more question for Mario, okay? So Mario, how many bottles of Metodo Classico do you produce? Have you experimented with any other grape varieties other than Pinot Nero for Metodo Classico? Let's see.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay. So very easy answer. The bottle of Metodo Classico that we started in 2014, first year, they range from 4,000 to 7,000, depending from the vintage, depending from the quality of the grape, because we need a particular characteristic to make a good Metodo Classico. It means a very good acidity, even a good ripeness, but not too much, and integrity of the grape. So every year we decide which part of our vineyards to destinate to the Metodo Classico. And the second question was, sorry?
So they said also, have you experimented
with
other grape varieties other than Pinot Nero for Metodo Classico?
No, first of all, because we don't have Chardonnay, for example. And I consider it personally the Pinot Noir one of the best and difficult grape variety in the world. And so every year is a challenge because we produce a Metodo Classico, but one of the traditional wine for the castle, Marchesi Alfieri, is the Pinot Noir vinificated in red. The name is San Germano, that is the name of the family. And the San Germano was produced the first time in 1990. So the Pinot Noir is not traditional of Piemonte, but is very traditional for our estate, because it was introduced by Camillo Benso di Cavour, that the nephew of Camillo Benso di Cavour married one Alfieri living in the castle. And this is the reason because we found, and we still have, a very small vineyards planted in the middle of the 18th century exactly, of Pinot Noir. And so when the sisters received the property from the father, they discover with a consultant winemaker these very old vineyards, and they asked to a viticulture expert to came and to understand, to tell us what is, and they discovered that was 100% Pinot Noir. So from these small vineyards that now is a matter of 300 plants maximum, the decision in the late of the 80s to plant 2.5 hectares of Pinot Noir. And this is because the Pinot Noir is traditional for Marchesi Alfieri estate, even if it's not traditional for Piemonte.
Thank you so much. I have another question from Jackie Solon. Would you like to ask yourself to Andrea Costa? Would you like to do it? I think it's nice when people participate. Jackie, you can talk.
Yes, I was wondering if in a good Moscato, how many years can it age?
That's another good question. And at least in our winery, we are in the, but I think that's in the area, we are in the learning phase. Because also for us, Moscato was consumed young. But recently we started to keep some bottles. So I've done tasting of my Scrapona back to 2003, and it was very good. So, and that was last year. So let's say 15 years. But it's hard to find bottles because we didn't store it until a few years ago. So those bottles, 2003, I found it at my aunt's house and we tasted it. And there is an evolution, like in any wines. We lose a little bit of acidity. The color gets more yellow. We lose the flowers. We get more. We get more like honey and figs. And surprisingly, it doesn't oxidate. The terpenes, I think, the terpenes preserve from oxidation. So surprisingly, it holds very nicely. But that's, I think, a maximum. I wouldn't go further than that. So 10 years is already fantastic Moscato. Then there is the Passito. We make in Italy, in Piemonte, we make Moscato Passito. So that's completely another, it's the same grape, but another wine. It's basically, we dry the grapes. The result is like a Sauterne style or a Passito style. But we have no botrytis. So we dry the grapes for 2 months, then we ferment the wines, and then we age the wines 2 years in the barrel. And that's a wine meant for aging. So that Moscato, the Moscato Passito, I've personally tasted 35 and 40 years old bottles, and they are amazing. So that wine is also can age very well.
Good. I have another question for you, Andrea. You became really popular. Can you tell us about describe the specific tasting differences between the Barbera and Albarossa, and also how they differ in their aging potential? And this is maybe the last question because we went over a lot.
Albarossa, if you have a chance, please taste it because it's a relatively new grape in Piemonte. And it was born from a flower cross between Barbera and the Nebbiolo di Dronero, which is the French Chateau. So it has Barbera in its DNA. So it has something comparable to Barbera, but it's a different variety. If you see Albarossa compared to Barbera, it has a smaller berry and thicker skin. So we get a nice dark color. It has more tannin than Barbera. It has a very, very good aging potential. It gets, I think, differently from Barbera, I wouldn't do a young Albarossa, while Barbera is more versatile. I love, for example, Barbera in stainless steel, which are very good even after 12 months. Albarossa is a wine that it's meant for aging. Which one can age longer? Let's see, let's try. Albarossa, the good Albarossa start with the vintage 2009, 2008. So it's still early to say who's the winner. But for sure, Albarossa has a great aging potential. And Barbera as well.
Great. We're looking forward to see what's going to happen to Albarossa. Okay, yeah. So I just want to conclude. There is no more question. I want to thank you all. I'm going to give the word to Suzanne. She wants to say goodbye, but thank you for all the participants for coming and following us through this episode. I hope that you enjoy them, that you learn, and you met the new family. Maybe in the future you can go to Italy and meet them in person and tell them, I was at the Italian Cultural Center Zoom call and we met there the first time there. And that will be your first connection with this family. I don't know if Suzanne is here. Otherwise, okay.
I'm here. And I would like to say, I've posted the photo that I wanted to show of the next generation of the Marenco family. We start them young. This is Agnese. But I want to thank everyone. This is a passion of mine to tell their stories. It's wonderful when they can tell the stories themselves. The stories behind the labels are important because wine is not a beverage, it's an experience. So if any of you would like to experience more of the wine, I'm going to be summarizing all of the contact information from our 5-part series with both the wineries and also with their importers. John Rittmaster couldn't be with us today. He said to say hi, but he can help you outside of the state of Minnesota and also in Minnesota for wines that are not carried there. So look for that in your email in the next couple of days. We're going to put that together for you. And you're always welcome to email me with any questions or needing any contacts or recommendations. I cannot thank you enough. Really, it's in my heart. And I wish you all the very best of good health. And I hope to see many of you, all of you, in Piemonte or Minneapolis, or both. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Grazie mille.
Grazie a tutti.
Grazie Andrea.
Grazie mille a tutti.
Grazie.
Per l'inglese anche, signora Giovanna, complimenti per l'inglese. You know?
Il mio inglese è molto limitato.
Se mia madre parlasse così sarei molto contenta. Bravissima. Grazie mille per tutto.
Grazie a voi e venite in Piemonte.
Sicuramente.
Thank you, Donna Giovanna. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you.
Ciao.
Grazie mille, Suzanne.